Hey, hope you're well. So, the biggest Phasmophobia update yet has just released. All the beta branch updates from the last couple of months have finally come over to the live branch. So I'm going to go over the patch notes, they're very big, and I'll split this video into different sections based on the patch notes. So first of all, an update that brings countless bug fixes, several balance changes, as well as new and improved features. Over the past few months, there's been a beta branch running with regular experimental updates. With these updates, the game has been fixed, optimized, changed in various ways to improve the gameplay for everyone. Some of these changes are quite significant, however, these changes are made to improve the overall gameplay experience. This update now puts the game into a much more stable state, which will allow for new content to start being worked on. Very exciting. There's some quite big changes here. So first of all, let me go over the new additions. First of all, for the new additions, added an accessibility page where you can swap your sound to mono, added a button to select the contract difficulty, as opposed to it being random, a change that I love, but I would also love to see a map selector to go alongside this. Added a button in the in-game options to change the ports the game uses, added text on the sanity monitor to show the team's average sanity that the ghost uses to hunt. No longer do you have to try and do the mental maths to work out what your average sanity is, it shows you very clearly now on the truck's display. Now for the quality of life improvements. Improved the server and contract selection navigation on gamepads. You can now enter the room invite code with a keyboard numpad. Added a button to add the max amount of each item so you don't have to spam click them, one of my favourite changes. Added a server region prefix in front of the room invite code to help show what region you're in. Added a delay for closing the truck door once it's been opened to prevent trolling. Changing character will no longer unready everyone, hallelujah. Added an are you sure check after clicking the training button on the main menu. May have done that in the past, won't lie. Very welcome. Next up, the juicy section, Ghost AI Improvements. The ghost will now follow you around corners if it's lost sign of sight of you, as opposed to searching a random location. This is great, and it does work as intended, from what I've seen over the past few weeks. So the ghost will be able to stay on you much more reliably than before. The ghost will now listen for player voices when hunting and will search those locations. This will not work if you're not the Banshee target. Again, a feature that does seem to be working, from what I've tested. Something else that helps them locate you and keep track of you. The ghost can now open lockers and closets outside of a hunt. The ghost will now open doors, closets and lockers during hunts. This can be stopped by holding the door however, the ghost can still walk through the room doors like usual. So hiding in rooms is not very safe, but closets and lockers are very safe now. In fact, a little bit too safe, but this is something I want to touch on in a different video. Slightly increase the ghost chance to wander on all difficulties. The ghost will now search around the location it last saw a player, rather than searching a random location. Again, makes them far more menacing. You can really tell that they are almost patrolling a particular area. They know when you're around. They're much more smarter. The ghost will now target any player that gets close to it while it's already chasing another player. Again, just making them a little bit more smart in general. But yeah, some very good improvements all around. If you've never played the beta branch, you might notice quite a big difference. Because before, they really did used to forget about you. They used to wander wherever they liked. But yeah, they've been enhanced. They have the sixth sense now. Look out. Be careful. Now for the gameplay changes. Quite beefy. On Professional, you will no longer be told if the ghost responds to groups or only if you're alone. On Professional, the power will now always start off. This ties in with the new thermometer mechanics, which I will touch on a little bit later. They've also removed the dirty water objective as it was too hard to get. It will still remain as an extra photo evidence, however, so you can get money for taking the photo, but you'll never have it as an optional objective. Dirty water was far too RNG reliant in the past. There was nothing you could do to get it. It was pure chance. They've removed the temperature objective due to the temperature changes listed below. Again, something we'll touch on later. The activity monitor now shows an estimated value as opposed to the true value. That's so that you can't work out EMF level 5 from the truck, which was a little bit cheesy in my opinion. I'm all for that change. Glow sticks will now have the same brightness when you're holding them as when they are thrown. I'm not sure it's the same when you hold them because it's pretty much the same as having no light. Something I've done a lot in challenges, but yeah, I don't think they should give you too much light because they are glow sticks at the end of the day. But they're not very useful items at the moment. Improve the movement of ghost orbs so they stay inside the room longer and are easier to see. There's been a lot of glitches with ghost orbs lately on the beta, so I'm hoping they've stomped all them out. A lot of rooms where they've kind of like glitched outside where you can't see them. We'll see how that goes. EMF readers now give random values during hunts, similar to how the flashlight flashes during a hunt. It's very useful if you're doing a no flashlight run or something, or just as another indication that there's a hunt going on. You can just hear it alternating, it just goes up and down the pitch. The ghost appearing and walking towards you now counts as a ghost event. Thank goodness, because I did not know that didn't used to be a ghost event, and that explains why they were so difficult to get sometimes. Dead players will no longer count towards the average sanity. Instead, alive players will now lose 15 sanity each time a player dies. Yeah, welcome change in my opinion. Lowered the resolution of the photos to help with lag spikes when taking the photo. Yep, used to be a victim of that. The $50 photo reward challenge has been changed to be a total $50 reward over multiple games. Banshees will now hunt like other ghosts and target any player when its target player is outside, so that's interesting. You can't cheese the Banshee by leaving the target outside anymore, because it will hunt at random inside, so it will behave like any other ghost type would during a hunt. It will just hunt who it sees first. If someone gets closer, it will then change target to them, etc. But if the main target does come back inside, then yeah, it will probably just start focusing on them again. Improved how the bone spawns to help prevent it spawning in unreachable locations. I'm still getting some weird bone spawns from my most recent beta days, but I can't think of any that were in unreachable locations, so yeah, maybe that's working as intended. Right, now onto the temperature mechanic changes. These are quite interesting. I do love these changes. So, lowered the rate the thermometer updates its temperature from 1 second to 2 seconds. At one point, they had this updating like every 5 seconds, which was brutal, but they've come to a middle ground. It's now at 2, which feels fair, in my opinion. Slightly increase the temperature's variations that show on the thermometer. They have slightly, but it's not too dramatic. It's still quite obvious when you found the ghost. All rooms now start with slightly different temperatures. Yep, that's correct. Only marginal, nothing too crazy. If the power is off, the temperature in every room will slowly drop to 5 Celsius or 41 Fahrenheit. So this is where the breaker comes into play. If the power is on, however, the temperature in every room will slowly raise unless the ghost is in the room, where it will still drop. So you have to turn on the power, and then every room, except the ghost room, is going to warm up. What this means is that for non-freezing ghosts, you won't be able to find it with a thermo until you turn the power on. But for freezing ghosts, it will still go freezing, even if the power breaker's off. But another change due to professional. On professional, as I mentioned earlier, the power starts off, so every room starts cold. So you have to go for the breaker ASAP if you want to use the thermo to find the room. Also, each room will now change their temperature at slightly different speeds. Lowered the speed that the temperature raises in rooms once the power is on. They were just trying to find the sweet spot with the balance, because sometimes it was either too fast or too slow, the temperature changes. And they have also lowered the speed that the ghost lowers the temperature in the room it's in. Again, they were just experimenting and they found the sweet spot finally. Freezing temperature ghosts will now reduce the room temperature at the same speed as other ghosts. This means that when the power's off, all rooms, including the ghost room, will drop at a similar speed. So those are the new temperature mechanic changes. I love the new changes because the thermometer was a little bit too easy before. A little bit of a brain dead strategy. There's a little bit more gameplay involved now, which I like. A big focus on keeping the breaker on if you want to use this as your preferred method. Next up, another one that I love, parabolic microphone changes. I loved the parabolic, even in its weak state, but they've buffed it, and they've changed its use ever so slightly. So the parabolic range has been increased from 8 meters to 30. Insane. The width has also been increased from 2 to 6 meters. This is to be used to give you the general direction the ghost is in, and not exactly where it is. So the idea is that you use the parabolic in combination with something else. Think when you're doing solo high school asylum prison, Like, where do you go first? It's a gamble. You might be close to the ghost, you may not. So if you get a reading on the Parabolic that can guide you in a general direction, that's great. If you can find a reading on the left of Asylum, you've cut out half the map, half your search area. You then go in with, say, your favourite item, the EMF or the Thermo, or something else to try and pinpoint the room itself. They've also reduced the size of the Parabolic microphone model to give you a better view on non-VR. Yep, it doesn't take up half your screen anymore. Can confirm. They've removed some ambient sounds from being read by the Parabolic mic and sound sensors that were not caused by the ghost. Improved how the Parabolic mic and sound sensors hear player voices to be more accurate. Increased the time sounds can be detected by the Parabolic or sound sensor from 2 to 3 seconds. Fixed several sounds that were not being heard by the Parabolic mic. So yeah, very good changes for the Parabolic overall. So it won't pick up those false readings in certain spots anymore that used to exist. Stuff like that. It will still pick up your teammates. Do be careful. Do communicate well so that you don't accidentally pick them up and think it's the ghost. But yeah, I love using the Parabolic, especially when I play solo. Just especially on the larger maps, to point me in the right direction. It is a lifesaver. I do recommend giving it a go, especially in its current state. It's essentially a portable sound sensor. In my opinion, the sensors, including sound, need a buff still, which hasn't been part of this update, but maybe it'll come in the future. Now for the non-VR changes. You can now place candles similar to the ghostwriting book. Essentially, they're not a fire hazard anymore, because I used to just throw them down and they used to fall over and nearly burn the house down, you know. I mean, that's one way to get rid of the ghosts, right? But you can stand them up now anyway, which is great. Flashlights and UV lights will now turn on when swapping items, if your shoulder light was on. That's great. No longer do you have to keep turning your light back on every time you swap item. Good change. Swapping items from a turned on flashlight will now turn on your shoulder light automatically. Again, amazing. Tripods will now always get placed directly in front of you to prevent situations where you could place them into unreachable locations. You just have some fun doing that, but it's a necessary change, isn't it? So that's the bulk of the update in terms of new features, mechanics, quality of life changes, improvements, etc. You've got a hell of a lot of bug fixes, which are coming next, but I won't go over them all because there's far too many. So they've got a section here for VR bug fixes, for those that play in VR. They've got a section for Prison, which is mainly bug fixes, again. Asylum, a lot of bug fixes, but they have also improved the performance and load times in Asylum. They have also moved the light switches in the reception to make them more clear what they do. So, basically, the left side corridor light switches, they've just moved them onto the left side of reception. Same for the right. And then in the middle, they've got 3 light switches for the area around reception. It's just a little bit clearer. And then down below, they've got loads of bug fixes. I do recommend reading these in your own time because there's far too many to go over. I'll link the patch notes in the description, so do check that out. So that is the biggest update for Phasmophobia yet. Lots of changes, fixes, improvements. Very big, juicy update. For those that have not played on the beta, you're in for a treat. Lots of changes, so get stuck in, enjoy. I just can't wait to see what they're going to work on next now that this is finally over to the live branch. Because they did mention here, this update now puts the game into a much more stable state, which will allow for new content to start being worked on. Exciting. Looking forward to the future. Alright, enjoy the update, guys. Take care of yourselves, and I will catch you soon. See ya.